Nestled deep within the Serbian countryside, the village of Kisiljevo was a humble community. The year was 1725. Life in Kisiljevo was simple, a tapestry woven from hard work and quiet faith. The villagers lived in harmony with the land, their days measured by the rising and setting sun. But this tranquility was shattered by an event so terrifying, so inexplicable, that it would forever stain the history of Kisiljevo. This is the story of Petar Blagojevic, the monster who haunted their waking hours and stalked their nightmares. This is the true legend of the Vampire of Kisiljevo. Life in Kisiljevo revolved around the cycles of nature. Days were spent tending to crops and livestock. Nights were for sharing stories around flickering hearths. The villagers were a close-knit community bound by tradition and a shared belief in the unseen forces that governed their world. Little did they know that these very beliefs would soon be tested, pushing them to the brink of madness and despair. Petar Blagojevic was a farmer, living a life much like his neighbours. His death, however, was anything but ordinary. Some whispered that he had been attacked by a wild animal, his body mangled beyond recognition. Others claimed he succumbed to a sudden violent illness. Regardless of the cause, Blagojevic's demise was shrouded in an unsettling air of mystery. It was a death that cast a long, dark shadow over Kisiljevo, a shadow that would soon morph into outright terror. The villagers buried Blagojevic quickly, eager to consign his passing to the earth. Little did they know their haste would have horrifying consequences. They laid him to rest in the village graveyard, a small, overgrown plot on the outskirts of Kisiljevo. The mournful cries of mourners mingled with the rustling leaves, their sorrow echoing through the valley like a premonition of the horrors to come. The death of Petar Blagojevic should have been the end of his story. Instead, it was only the beginning. In the days following Blagojevic's funeral, a chilling pattern emerged. 9 villagers, all seemingly in good health, died within a week. Their deaths were as sudden as they were inexplicable. Each victim displayed strange, unsettling symptoms. Their faces were gaunt, their skin pale and clammy. Most disturbingly, they bore a look of sheer terror in their eyes, as if they had witnessed something utterly horrifying in their final moments. Panic began to grip Kisiljevo. Whispers of a curse spread through the village like wildfire. The villagers, once a community bound by trust and camaraderie, now eyed each other with suspicion. Fear, a palpable entity, settled over Kisiljevo, seeping into every corner of their lives. The villagers had always believed in the supernatural, in the unseen forces that could influence their world. But this was different. This was a terror they could taste, a fear that gnawed at their sanity. Then came the widow's account. Melissa, Blagojevic's own wife, claimed to have seen her deceased husband. She described waking in the dead of night to find him standing over her, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. He was, she swore, attempting to climb into bed with her, his cold, stiff hands reaching for her throat. Melissa's screams had chased the apparition away, but her terror was real, her fear etched into every line of her face. Her story sent a wave of horror through the already terrified villagers. Melissa's account was dismissed by some as a grieving widow's delusion, a figment of her grief-stricken mind. But others, their minds already primed for fear, saw it as confirmation of their worst fears. The legend of Petar Blagojevic, the Vampire of Kisiljevo, was born. Fear grips Kisiljevo. Desperate measures in the face of evil. The situation in Kisiljevo was spiraling out of control. Fear had become a tangible presence, suffocating the village like a thick fog. The villagers, desperate for an explanation, for a way to combat the terror that gripped them, turned to ancient folklore, to the whispered tales of creatures that preyed on the living from beyond the grave. The stories of vampires, once dismissed as mere superstition, now held a terrifying resonance. The villagers, led by the village elder, made a chilling decision. They would exhume the body of Petar Blagojevic. They would see for themselves if the stories were true, if their former neighbor was indeed the monster haunting their nights. It was a decision born out of desperation, a last-ditch effort to reclaim their village from the clutches of fear. Unearthing the truth, the ghastly contents of Blagojevic's coffin. Under a moonless sky, a group of villagers, armed with shovels and fueled by a mixture of fear and grim determination, gathered in the graveyard. The air crackled with tension as they broke through the hallowed ground, the scraping of shovels against earth a jarring counterpoint to the eerie silence of the night. Sweat mingled with fear on their faces as they finally reached the coffin. It was time to confront their fears, to stare into the abyss that had opened up in their midst. What they found inside chilled them to the bone. Blagojevic's body lay within the coffin, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. His eyes were open, staring accusingly at the living. His lips were curled into a grotesque snarl, a mockery of a smile. Most disturbingly, a trickle of fresh blood stained his chin, a testament to the horrors he had inflicted on their village. The ritual of purification stake and flame against the vampire's curse. The sight that greeted them left no room for doubt. Petar Blagojevic was a vampire. The villagers, their worst fears confirmed, wasted no time in carrying out the rituals dictated by ancient folklore. A sharpened stake, crafted from the wood of a hawthorn tree, was driven through his heart. A collective gasp escaped the villagers as the stake pierced flesh, a mixture of horror and relief on their faces. It was a brutal act, but one they believed necessary to break the curse that plagued them. With the vampire's heart pierced, they dragged his body to the edge of the village. There they built a pyre, the flames leaping high into the night sky, casting flickering shadows that danced to the rhythm of their fear and their desperate hope. As the fire consumed Blagojevic's body, a sense of release, of catharsis, washed over the villagers. They had faced their nightmare and emerged, however shaken, victorious. The legend endures Blagojevic's reign of terror in folklore. News of the events in Kisiljevo spread like wildfire, carried on the winds of fear and superstition. The tale of Petar Blagojevic, the Vampire of Kisiljevo, became a cautionary tale whispered around campfires, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked at the edges of their world. His story became a part of Serbian folklore, a chilling reminder of the power of belief, of the hold that ancient fears could exert over even the most rational minds. The story of the Vampire of Kisiljevo serves as a stark reminder of the power of fear, of the hold that superstition can have over the human psyche. It is a tale that has resonated through the centuries, its power undiminished by the passage of time. It is a story that continues to fascinate and terrify, a chilling testament to the enduring power of the unknown. Beyond the grave separating fact from superstition. The legend of Petar Blagojevic is a chilling one, steeped in the supernatural. But was there a rational explanation for the events that transpired in Kisiljevo? Could there be a scientific basis for the villagers' claims, or were they simply victims of their own fear, their perceptions warped by superstition and the very human need to find an explanation for the unexplainable? Was Blagojevic truly a vampire, a creature of darkness preying on the living, or was he simply a victim of circumstance? His death and the events that followed tragically misinterpreted through the lens of fear. We may never know for sure. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a complex interplay of genuine fear, mass hysteria, and the very human tendency to find patterns where none exist. Whatever the explanation, the legend of the Vampire of Kisiljevo stands as a chilling reminder of the power of belief, of the darkness that can take root in the human heart when confronted with the unknown.